But from my perspective as a radiologist and what I see on my film, is that the things that people suffer the most, one is neck pain throughout the day, okay, and low back pain.
Hmm.
And that's what people present to for neck MRIs and neck CTs and low back pain and lumbar spine MRIs and everything like that. And it stems from straying away from our primal alignment. And so I think when you begin your day, you have to do things that keeps and strengthens your neck and keeps it in alignment. That's number one. The other thing that works really well for people, and I do it personally, is I do a static hang every morning.
Mm.
And it's people don't realize how hard it is until they actually do it. But if people can get to 30 seconds, that's a good start. But ultimately, you want to be able to get to a static hang where you can hang for about 2 minutes. And if you can get there, you will have built enough of your upper back and where during the day you will not round your shoulders as much and your back will stay more aligned and it will decrease the incidence of that upper back pain, mid back pain, and neck pain that people notice. And the last thing I would say that I do every day is I do a deep squat while my water is warming up. And I'm not talking just a barbell squat going down. I'm talking a primal squat, ATG, ass to grass squat, right? Where I and and it's interesting because the when I was in Africa and hanging out with these tribes, the squatting was a restful posture. You would see these elders, they would just be in a squat and talking and making meals and you know cutting up tubers or whatever and they were in a squat and it was just a matter of fact. It's like the way we sit on a chair. They're sitting in a squat, and a lot of times, it's funny because like I became so used to squatting, because of that. And that to me is a restful posture. And it's come from just years of just being very comfortable in that position.
Mm.
Uh, and a lot of times at work, I would like be looking at a film and I'll just kind of put, rest in a squat. To me, it's a restful position. And now you'd see other doctors come, they're like, wow, you can get down to a squat and you can come back up. I said, okay, why can't you do that? They're like, we got too much pain to do that. And I go, wow, how much have people strayed from their primal alignment and just the primal movement. So again, that's a good start for people.
Yeah, love that. I'm that person as well that always goes down into a squat when there's a group of people around and not much has happened, and I'm just over in the corner or just in the circle having a squat.
Yeah, I think it's such a relaxing position, right?
Oh, it feels good as well.
Yeah.
I'd like to see when people get together chatting, everybody's down in a squat. Uh, so let's go to the evening. Touch on a few things that people should pay attention to when winding down for sleep.
Right, right. So with the evening, I think the most important aspect here, okay, is that we want to prepare our body for sleep. And we know that sleep is the superpower of your health. Okay. And then I covered that in the five S's as well, right? And really, how you begin your day is also going to determine how you end your day. Because
Mm, 100%.
movement, if you have movement during the day, you're going to have better sleep. We know that when you use ATP, right, which is the energy currency, the adenosine, so ATP is adenosine triphosphate, the adenosine that is dislodged or from that ATP, that there are adenosine receptors in your body. And when that adenosine, so when you spend this energy moving and doing things, that adenosine binds to those receptors, and that gives you what we call a sleep pressure. That's what makes you want to go to sleep. Okay.
Mm,
And so if you've seen and you study that, what are who sleeps the best? If I was going to ask you, like if you look at across the world, what population sleeps the best? And if you take a survey, you'll find that apart from these primal cultures, which, I mean, they're doing many, many things that are correct. But apart from that, are people who are manual labor, involved with manual blue collar workers and farmers. And
Mm,
farmers, if you ask them 9, 10 o'clock, it's like they hit the bed and they're just gone. They're
mm,
just asleep because they've had tremendous physical activity where they've built up so much sleep pressure they can fall asleep right away. So what I want to say is that early getting your early part of your day is just as important for that evening part to happen correctly. Okay. So assuming that all this has happened, you've got sunlight exposure, you've got activity. Now you enter that evening period. What we don't want to do is screw up all the benefits that we've garnered during the day. And how can we screw it up? Okay. One is that during the evening, most people like to engage with technology, right? During that last hour. And all that blue light exposure from the phones and screens and everything like that. And if you're taking your phone to your bed, bad practice, I would change that
mm.
right away. Um, that blue light. So one is if you've done all the work up to this point right, you're going to screw it up by having that blue light exposure, which will not allow your melatonin to rise, which will not allow you to fall asleep. Okay. And we know that that natural melatonin increase in your body is what gives you that natural dive into sleep and what gets you into deep sleep. So titrating our more evening routine so that one, we are optimizing it for sleep. The second aspect is one is falling asleep, which is a melatonin thing. And the second part is staying asleep. And why do
Mm.
people wake up? Some people fall asleep, but then they wind up waking up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then they're up and then they're looking at the clock and they're going, what? I got to wake up tomorrow. I got to do this and that. And I'm up at 3:30. And I've done that. So I'm speaking from experience, more than anything else. And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating when you look at the clock at night and you're like, oh my God. And what I found is that it's all dependent on your um, level of anxiety and your cortisol level when you're falling asleep.
Mm.
What I found is that any certain practices that lower your cortisol, for me, it's conscious breathing, and that really brings down my cortisol right before going to sleep, and that keeps me asleep, so I can fall asleep effectively and stay asleep. So two factors there.
So yeah, love that. And just doing a little bit of mindfulness before you go to bed just to reduce that anxiety.
Reduce anxiety, decrease that cortisol, and so you're in a better climate to stay asleep.
Mm. This is probably going to take us off on a massive tangent, but I wanted to ask, so when it comes to movement, like you said, it's very important. And like when I get people that don't exercise much or have very sedentary lifestyles and they do some exercise, they're like, "Oh, I was so tired that night." I'm like, "Yes, good, keep doing it." And people can almost self-regulate that as well. Like it's like, "Oh, well, when I exercise, I'm tired, so I can sleep." So I think that's a good example for people. But just when it comes to exercise, if we go back to the tribe in Tanzania, when they get joint pain or they have an injury or any sort of niggle in their body, what do they do? Again, I assume the US is the same because we Australia generally follows. But as a personal trainer, when I'm coaching people or talking to people in the gym and they have some sort of niggle in their arm, it's like, well, I can't do anything. I can't move. I can't, I've just got to rest. I'm like, well, no, you still got to move. You still got to do things. So again, going back to that tribe that don't take any medication, I'm assuming they don't have painkillers, all that sort of stuff. What
Yeah.
do they do?
So, Jack, one thing we got to keep in mind is when, for example, if people connect with the earth, when let's say you have a wonderful workout and you're sore, what we've seen is that when people connect with the earth, which means that have contact, let's say grounding in terms of, let's say walking barefoot on grass or connection with soil, your level of inflammation goes down and you recover faster. So one of the things that these tribe innately they're just connected with the land so much that their level of recovery is so efficient compared to the standard of what we think about recovery. So not that they don't have injuries, but their level of recovery is so much faster because everything is so primal. Okay. So sunlight exposure, connection with grounding, that decreases your inflammation and improves recovery dramatically. Okay. And
Mm.
so these are, I guess, hacks. I don't want to, I don't, it's kind of like insult to these primal practices. I don't want to call them hacks because they're just what we were designed to do. But these primal practices will help people recover faster. Okay. So when
Mm.
people are going through this aspect of joint pain, the second thing is what you mentioned is that, you know, it, the culture is that I get hurt and I'm going to like now rest and not move, right?
Mm.
But in these cultures, they don't have that luxury of not moving because they
True.
get hurt and the next day they have to get their food. They have, that is their meat, they have to gather their food or hunt their food. So what are you going to do? Do you starve or you go with the knee pain and do what you need to do? So they're just constantly moving. And one of the things, in fact, one of the, no, there's a recent research paper and it talks about knee pain. And what it said was that one of the main drivers of knee pain has to do with, how much you sit and how your angle is when you walk. And it was interesting because when people sit and have decreased glute activation and glute atrophy, it changes their gait angle. And when
Hmm.
their gait angle changes, you develop knee pain. And most people don't. It's such a counterintuitive thing. But think about this culture, this primal culture. They're constantly squatting. They're not sitting. So their alignment in terms of their knees and everything like that is very primal.
Mm.
It's very much, it's where, it's the way it should be. So the incidence of knee pain is so low because they're constantly moving and they're aligned the way their body was designed.
And I think people get that wrong, and I'm probably guilty of pushing this. Obviously, I'm in the fitness industry. I'm a personal trainer. I want people to exercise, but exercise is almost like it's not as important as the recovery. And I think what a lot of people get wrong is they focus, they've got an hour for a workout. That's awesome. And you want to get as much out of it as you can. But then it's like, what are you doing outside the workout? Are you recovering? Like that's more important than the actual workout. And I think people sort of get that mixed up because people will have a great workout, but then they'll go back and sit at the chair, sit at the computer, eat some bad food, all that sort of stuff, and not actually recover and not get the benefits from the workout. And yeah, it makes perfect sense. The Tanzanian
Absolutely. And,
tribe.
and Jack, to add to that, and then you bring up a great point is that, as a personal trainer, you're giving them this great workout experience and maybe you're pushing them and they've really, developed those micro tears in their muscles and then their body's sort of primed to grow now, right?
Mm.
But now that's the first part of the equation. Now, the second part of the equation is the recovery and the muscle growth, which is kind of on them, right?
Mm.
And when we know that all these parameters, so part of it is sleep, which is where a lot of your muscle growth happens, a lot of where your growth hormone is released, right? We know that, obviously keeping yourself in a mode where you are in an anabolic state, right? If you have a workout, for example, and you are stressed out for the next 2 days, right? With just doing things and then just stressing your body in terms of staying up late, eating inflammatory foods, whatnot, right? your cortisol level is going to be high and you're going to have very little muscle growth because you just are not putting your body in an anabolic state. You just cannot, your body's not in that rest recuperate mode. It's in a stress fight or flight mode all the time.
Mm.
And so, and you hit the nail on the head by saying that your job is just 50% what you do with the clients, but then they have to take care of the rest of the 50% in terms of the recovery.
I like the generous 50%. I usually say 10%, and then I've got 90% to work on. What is up, everybody? If you are vibing with this content and you want to start implementing it into your day-to-day life to find your true form, but you're not sure how, don't stress. I have got you covered. I have created a cheat sheet from over 270 podcast episodes. 9 things that just keep recurring, episode after episode, guest after guest. These 9 things are going to have a massive impact on your overall health and wellness and just well-being as well. Each thing I give you, let you know why it's important, break it all down, but most importantly, I let you know how to implement it into your day-to-day life. Information's great, but unless you know how to use it, then it's kind of useless. And it's all in there. It is 100% free. All I want you to do is just implement, find your true form, and start living a long, healthy, happy life. Check it out in the show notes.